can't see the mouse. Just put it on the. See if that. Oh.
All right, being shortly after 5:30, we'll open up the City Council Education Partnership Subcommittee, and the discussion for this evening is designating Lowell as a global learning city. And we have Professor Whiting here to open it up. Go ahead.
Give me a roll call, Eddie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could the clerk please call a roll?
Chairman Kennedy,
Here.
Councilor Conway, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah.
Two present.
Go ahead.
First, thank you for the time. I'll be as brief as possible. I come to you with an idea in which
Yeah. It's probably best if you sit down, and that way you can have the microphone. Yeah. I'm sorry, is the green light on? Okay.
It is now.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I come to you with an idea and a vision. I wanted to give you some idea about what this is about. But I need to give you a few seconds of background to this idea. About a year and a half ago at the university, we had a conference on sustainability and other issues, bringing some folks from around the world, but in particular some faculty and people from University College in Cork, Ireland. And they came for a couple of days, and we had a great time together. And we walked around the city, and the vice provost of the university, John O'Halloran, was talking to me, and I'd been provost at UMass Lowell, so it was a sort of a connection. And he said, you know, one of the projects you really should think about is, I've seen Lowell, and I'm so excited about it. It should be a city of learning. And I really didn't know what he meant by this. So he went on to explain, and I discovered that the United Nations Economic, Scientific, and Cultural Committee, UNESCO, designates cities as cities of learning, and has built a program over the last 10 or 11 years doing that process across the globe. And as you may know, outside of the United States, UNESCO is taken very, very seriously. It's the place which establishes the historic sites around the world, and there's a lot of investment and development. So I asked him a little bit more about it, and he said, well, in April, Cork, which has just been awarded the UNESCO City of Learning of the Year award, is having the conference, the triennial conference of UNESCO in Cork, and a Festival of Learning, which is part of the City of Learning. Why don't you come? So I go to Cork, and I see this week-long Festival of Learning, which has all kinds of activities throughout the city, which I found incredibly exciting and stimulating. So I thought, well, you know, this idea is a really good one, and I think Lowell is, as John said to me, perfectly committed to doing this. I went back later in November when the actual conference occurred, and there were over 700 people from 140 countries in the world to celebrate Cork being awarded the UNESCO City of Learning Award. And I was deeply impressed with what they'd done, and this was really an amazing conference with a great deal of people there, and brought a lot of attention around the world. I met mayors and city councillors and academics from, as I said, about 140 cities. So I came back to Lowell, and I thought, well, we really should think about whether there's room for the city of Lowell to do this. So I've got this brief PowerPoint. There's only a few slides, but it'll give you a better idea of what this means, okay? So here's our logo, and I said, I'm so proud of that. City of Learning, I have a lot to learn about Lowell. And the educative city, I think, is really deeply embedded in the DNA of Lowell, and particularly the work of Pat Mogan, who talked about and used the term educative city, that there was all this stuff going on there in Lowell, and this would be a really great way of bringing Lowell thematically and I think intellectually around this idea. And I will say that as many years as an academic and as a teacher, I think it's extremely important to create a culture of learning in any community. And in fact, we don't do this very well at the university because we have a culture of teaching, but not a culture of learning. And so the idea of a culture of learning in a city, I think, is a very interesting one to me, both pedagogically and intellectually. I looked around, and I've worked a long time in Lowell. I'm on a number of boards of not-for-profits, and here's just a smattering of organizations in Lowell, with the core being the university, the community college, the city itself, and the local education department, who are really, and the national park. Basically what they do is they teach. They teach and they provide skill training and knowledge from everything from how to play the guitar, how to become a citizen, how to participate in politics, all of that stuff. So there are literally hundreds of organizations who do this already in Lowell. So I'm not trying to recreate the wheel here. This is really building on what we've got, you know. At Cork in 2017, this was the City of Learning there. Cork is interesting in relationship to Lowell because it's approximately the same size, 105,000 people. Physically, it's about the same size. It's got a lot more pubs, right? Which I went to.
You sure about that?
I visited many of them with the people I was working with. And so it's been designated a City of Learning. It took them about 8 to 9 years to get the award. This is a very unusual award. It's only given to one city every 3 years, I think. And as a result of getting the award, they had this, as I described, this very large convention there in Lowell for 5 days. They actually fed all 700 people at one meeting, and it was really very impressive. And I was sitting at tables with people from Africa, from Southeast Asia, from Korea, from the former Soviet Union, Russia, Belgium, Germany. It was very exciting. And it brought a lot of attention to Cork and a lot of money because all these people were buying and going to the pubs, as they do. There are 100 more so-called designated UNESCO learning cities in the world, but there's not one in the United States. If we pursued this, we could become the first UNESCO-designated city of learning in the United States, which would be no insignificant achievement, and I want you to think a little bit about that. Not here, that didn't work very well, but I'm not very good at PowerPoint. To build this, it requires really thinking about how we organize what we've already got. Again, I'm thinking of this as an umbrella, a framing of Lowell. In addition to Lowell as the mill city, in addition to Lowell as the creative city, Lowell is the learning city, and I think because we hold these components, and I work at UMass. The Lowell campus is really the only urban campus in the system, and I think this is a great thing and a great asset that we can build on. And this just describes what UNESCO sees as the building of this kind of stuff. They stole the logo from MCC. I'm sorry about that. It's the front of it. But the idea of building up these events and activities to make a commitment. They use the term lifelong learning, which is quite often a lot of pablum. And do I think by doing this we can take every young Cambodian kid and turn him into the new Elon Musk? No. But I think we could make this a place where we think of Lowell as a center for learning that has a culture of learning and that can build communities and particularly, I think, rebuild skills for people because the employment market, the job market is changing rapidly. It always did that in history, but the velocity of change is really enormous here now. With the advent of artificial intelligence and robotics, jobs are changing so quickly we can't even train our students at the university to manage those, right? We talk a lot about, for example, Amazon coming to Boston. Well, Amazon is also in the process of replacing its workers in its warehouses with robots. I just saw a piece on 2 of those warehouses where 500 workers were replaced by 3 workers and the entire system was robotic. We have a question about what work's going to become, right? So it's worth thinking that intellectually and for the future. So first city of learning in the United States, yes, we would do these things. The obvious things is promoting inclusive learning from basic to higher education. We often talk about Lowell where you can go to kindergarten and get a PhD. You can, there are very few places in the country that you can do that. The revitalization of the notion of learning in families, building a culture of that is really critically important. We can facilitate learning for the workplace using the university and the community college to adapt to the things I described, for example, the feature of Amazon and the beginning of robotics. We need to do this on a continued basis. We can use modern learning technologies. And I can see some people saying, well, look, if I want to learn how to play the guitar or fix my leaking faucet, I can go and get a YouTube video for that. But that doesn't create a culture of learning. I'm a teacher. Being in the classroom, showing passion about knowledge and learning is the only real way you can extend that, right? And so you have to foster that culture of learning, which I think has great implications for the future of Lowell and the future of this country. This would mean for us, we will become a destination for visitors in addition to what we do have, because we'll be seen as a learning city. It will build community cohesion. It will position us better to compete for business development. I talked about this with Jim Cook, and he was very excited about the idea, and he recognizes that businesses want to locate in areas which are, going back to the creative economy argument, but not only tolerant and technologically savvy, but places where learning opportunities, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, are there for their workers, for professional development. It increases the image of the city as an inclusive and safe environment, and it makes a commitment to the lifelong learning process, which I think is critically important for the gig and digital economy. And it will give us national and international recognition. I mean, I was struck in Cork by how this brought so many people from so many different parts of the world to this place around this idea, which, with the mill city and the start of the Industrial Revolution, all that stuff, that's good, but the shelf life of that is slowly dying. And yes, we have Jack Kerouac, and he's important too. But this is a level of bringing this stuff together, which I think presents real possibilities. These are former UNESCO Learning City awardees spread around the world. As you can see, there's an absence in North America. It's very big in Europe and in Southeast Asia. I met some really wonderful people from South Korea and from Brazil and Ecuador and Chile. So how do we get there? Again, I'm not coming to you to say I need $1 million or even to tear down the high school. I should have to bring that up. But
Everybody does.
but I think that everything is almost in place here. We just need to frame it and think about that. So what I'm proposing here is develop it as the first UNESCO City of Learning. And we're going to try, with your blessing, call the 4 days prior to celebration of Earth Day, which we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, as a week of the Festival of Learning, to bring some, and this is a pilot idea, just to bring some of the events together, build a calendar, suggest to people that we could do this, and sort of, test the waters to see whether that works or not. The festival can feature films, demonstrations, information, lectures, and so forth and so forth. We build this around the sustainability piece, which is implicit in the Earth Day thing, but it goes way beyond that. And one note I would add, talking to the folks who did this in Cork, it's very critical that the educational opportunities that appear in the neighborhoods, and we talk to the neighborhoods about what would they might like to learn or know more about. And I think that that's a critical component of this. And in Cork, what they do, a lot of these things go in on the front of supermarkets. They go in on the parks. They go in office spaces. So you bring the educational moment to the people where they are, where they act, right? And lastly, we have to apply for UNESCO designation. I have actually a copy of the application. It's actually quite simple. You're not committing to anything other than saying you want to work to becoming a city of learning. The mayor signs it, and then we access by that all of the information, knowledge, and background they've had building the 140-odd cities of learning across the rest of the world. And lastly, and I'll finish, is that the potential for me, and I'm not representing you in Mass Lowell, although I've talked to Jackie a lot about this, and she's very keen on this. Two components that I've believed in after years of teaching is that real teaching goes on with passion, and it goes on face-to-face. It goes on outside of the classroom as much as in it. And secondly, what we have not done very well at the university is create possibilities for our students to truly civically engage with the community beyond, we have students doing internships, but, making photocopies in Nikki Sonkus' office is not a learning experience, right? No more than reading your PowerPoints if you're a teacher is. So the potential for building the civic engagement piece of not only of our students by getting them to do things and teach in the city. For example, I'm teaching right now an upper-level seminar on the European Union. Well, say instead of writing a paper about the European Union, I had a group of students develop a PowerPoint or a presentation in language that everybody could understand, so that people who were interested to understand a little bit more about what the European Union was and why Brexit was important, we could do that, right? The second piece of this, of course, is the faculty. And the potential here for bringing the faculty, as they do it in Cork, into the city and expressing through a public engagement the kind of work and knowledge that they have is not only good for those faculty, it is also very good for the city. And we haven't really tapped into that resource as much as we might like to do. So all in all, what I'm saying to you is, here's an opportunity, focus on the idea of the city of learning that UNESCO puts out there in the world, and to have a shot at saying, well, Lowell's got all this in place. Let's frame it this way. Let's move forward and say, here's an exciting way, if you like, of branding Lowell in a different way, but more importantly, creating a culture of learning in the city over the long term to establish the possibilities of our community members and their belief in these things.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
Sure.
Thoughts?
Did you say how many times they have this? Is it so every 2 years, 5 years, every year?
Well, most of the cities have a festival of learning every year, right? Well, I actually have another slide, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I believe that UNESCO has a triennial award, and they award 2 or 3 cities who have met and exceeded the qualifications, which takes these cities somewhere between 3 to 8 years to get to that point where they've established, that they really are doing this. Mm-hmm. And then if they're chosen and nominated and there's a review committee, they will give that city the City of Learning Award and typically bring the triennial conference to that city. So the possibility here is, say, sometime in 5 years' time when UNESCO would bring that conference here, which would, of course, be a major achievement for this city. And as I said, it would be the first example of that in the United States.
Okay. No, it sounds like a worthwhile endeavor here, and it's exciting, so I thank you for bringing this forward.
Yeah, okay. I mean, one thing I didn't mention in this is that we're going to do this in April. This is a list of the sort of major events, and there are thousands of events, of course, as you well know, in this incredible city. But there's a kind of a hole in April, which is a tricky month, but I think that trying to do this around Earth Day and doing it as a 3 or 4 day pilot is a place to put that. It's between Winterfest and the African Festival, the Folk Festival, the Southeast Asian Water Festival, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've just started the Creativity City thing, which is in September. Yeah, that's Creator City, which is a very difficult thing to pronounce. And the idea of, again, as I said, there's a lot to like and to learn. It has a certain resonance.
Your proposal asks for a festival in April of 2018, which is only 50 days away. Which is short time. Do you think that we can do that? I mean, I'm assuming that if you didn't put that in the proposal, that you do think that, but...
Yeah, I do, and we've already created a beginning calendar for this. On Wednesday the 18th, I've invited the chair of the Political Science Department at Cork, who was awarded the Jean Monnet Chair of International European Integration last year. She's just completed a book on the European Union, and I've asked her to come and do the opening event for this on a Wednesday evening. So that's an academic faculty exercise, but I told her she's talking to the community. And then we have, I've got promises from Dick Howe to do a couple of walks, from Bob Ferrand to do a little history story. We've got a bunch of other things, some musical events going on there. We just have to find locations and play it out. We're not trying to do more than, a couple of things each evening, and maybe something at lunchtime for the first 3 or 4 days, culminating in an Earth Day festival, a parade, and discussion. And so we're doing modestly to see if this will float, and we'll create a calendar of all those events. And what we can do now, I think, if we go forward with this, is create a kind of a calendar for Lowell in addition to the calendars we have, which is a kind of curriculum for Lowell, a curriculum for the city.
Okay. It sounds like you're pretty far down the road on this, or at least some way down the road.
Yeah.
This isn't, you're just not hatching this evening. There's been a lot of work and time that's been put into this so far. I was, last year when I was the mayor, I was invited to go to Cork with your group, and I wasn't able to make it. There's not a lot of regrets that I have during my 2-year time as mayor. Some people might be surprised that there aren't a lot of regrets, but I don't have a lot of regrets. But one of those would be not being able to make that trip to Cork, because everybody has told me that I really missed the boat by not going over there. I've never been there. So I think that this is great for the city. I also think if we can get to the point somewhere down the road, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but where we could host an event like Cork did, I think that would be great as well. So I guess the committee would vote this out this evening to the full city council a little later on this evening, and then probably refer to the matter to the city manager's office, where the city manager would appoint a point person.
Okay.
And it might be that maybe you and I could meet with the city manager or with that point person at some point down the road. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sort of looking for the city's blessing to do this. As I said, I'm
Yeah.
not in an official capacity for the university, but I think the university does support this idea very much. And as is the president of MCC, who we've spoken with, and some others, I've been sort of playing it around to get some support for it. And I like the vision idea of this, and I think that we should give it a shot. And it's actually a cheap thing to do, because we don't need anything other at the moment, at least, and find some space for this to happen. Eventually, posters, and eventually, as in Cork, the city hired a part-time person to do the organizing. Right now, I'm doing it, on my spare time, along with some other people. So, but if I can get the general blessing to give this one a shot, I think it's well worth thinking about.
Okay. All right, so why don't we proceed like that? And let me just join with Council Leahy and just thanking you for bringing this forward. This is I think this is a great idea, and I think it's a great opportunity for the city, and something that we should join with you in pursuing. So thank you very much.
And thank you for your time,
question.
everybody.
We have one question.
Sure. Did you say Professor, did you say a Wednesday in April somebody was coming up?
I think it's the 18th. We're going to kick this off, and I'm going to embolden myself to get the mayor's conference room to do this. Oh, I should also say that John O'Halloran has just been made the vice president of University College, which is a very significant position. He's going to come here that Wednesday night that week and help be sort of talk to us about what they did and how they did it and to set us off. So it's a nice start. You know, we've got a significant scholar, we've got the vice president of the university, and I would say that connections with Cork, because you missed the opportunity, but it's a perfect sister relationship for the city. I mean, it's just really a nice combination. The university is almost exactly the same distance from the city as the UMass Lowell is here, so it's right in the city.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mayor Samaras?
Thank you, Councilor Kennedy. Dr. Wooding, thank you for this presentation. You know, when you talked about Pat Mogan, Dr. Mogan, I mean, this is actually the realization of his dream, if we were able to pull this off. But I think Lowell is well placed for something like this because I know I am on the Parker Foundation for educational purposes. And one thing about the Parker Foundation, its purpose was to ensure that we have an educated society. And over the years, actually the past 100 years, it's been brought in many programs to this city. So there are different funding sources to do this. And I think that's some of the things that we need from you, though, is an idea of what funding sources would be helped to bring this together. So, I mean, I'm excited about this, and I think this is well worth something. I think this is something Lowell can do, and Lowell can do very well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the funding possibilities here, it's like motherhood and apple pie, right? I mean, and the fact that you would have a partnership between the two major education institutions, the city, the national park, and community organizations. I mean, I'm on the board of Mill City Grows, and Mill City Grows does so much of this kind of educational activity in the community. It's just been a wonderful experience, and that's the kind of thing that this could develop. And God knows, even some of you may have skills and hobbies that you could teach people. I mean, just to get out into the street and say, you know, this is what I love to do. I can help you do some of this stuff. You know, it's just a really great opportunity to have that happen.
No, Mr. Chairman, I think we're well stated, well placed to make this work, and so I think I look forward to your motion tonight to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Sorrell?
Yes, hi. I just wanted to say that when the motion was brought up, I did look into the Learning City, and I read up on it, and I thought it was such a fantastic idea, and I am very excited for Lowell with this possibility. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank
I
you.
think it's fantastic.
Good.
So thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Again,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Do we have a motion adjourned by Council Lee, second by the chair? All in favor of the motion, all opposed? We stand adjourned.